today's conversation, is what it is. Clause 1 of Article 261 of what you call transitional and consequential legislation says that Parliament shall enact any legislation required by this Constitution to be enacted to govern a particular matter within the period specified in the 5th schedule, coming or commencing on the effective date. Now, the 5th schedule really talks about these legislations that should be made, and I think the one on the two-thirds gender rule had a 5-year period on which it ought to have been, legislation ought to have been made by Parliament. Now, let's go to Article 7, which is the most important and which is what Chief Justice David Maraga relied on, or rather Clause 7. If Parliament fails to enact legislation with an order under Clause 6b, the Chief Justice shall advise the President to dissolve Parliament, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. The conversation from yesterday is on the word shall. Is it compulsive? Does it give the President a choice? And what happens now moving forward? This is the conversation we'll be having this afternoon. Let me quickly introduce the panel. Of course, for the benefit of having had what we have read under Article 261, I have Eric Ragalo, who is a political commentator. I also have Maina Kamunya, and I also have Kamau Wakamau. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the panel. I want you to say hi, then we go using the same speed, and very quickly we begin the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And to all Kenyans, we are here at Taifa Dialogue. We are here to communicate to one another on issues that just came up yesterday, or issues that we got now about having to go back to election just because we didn't enact the gender rule. And we want to discuss with the people watching us, and want to have a dialogue that is so engaging, dialogue that will ensure that we have a good thought on our nation and where and how to move forward.
All right. Kamunya?
Hello viewers, welcome very much to Taifa Dialogue. Let us discuss this issue so that we're able to understand what it entails.
All right.
Karibuni.
Kamau?
Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to Taifa TV Kenya. As we have dialogue on what is happening in our country, you're most welcome.
Fantastic. Let me start off with you, Kamunya, because you have the benefit of the law here. And probably the debate is on shall. And this may be legal, this might be a grammatical question. But what does the word shall mean? Because this is a conversation whether the Chief Justice can advise the President, then the President is actually forced to act on the very advice given by the Chief Justice.
Thank you, JJ. And legally, the word shall means mandatory.
It's mandatory?
Yes.
Okay.
The word, in legal perspective, the word shall means mandatory. Whatever is written in the Constitution with the word shall, meaning there's no debate about it, it must be done.
Okay.
But you see, the word shall here give the President no discretion except dissolving the Parliament. But there's another argument that's coming forward. In this matter, does the President have a requirement to be advised before he dissolves the Parliament? Does he have the time? Is there a timeline so that when he is told by the Chief Justice that shall dissolve the Parliament, does he have the benefit of timeline that I can dissolve Parliament in this particular time, or can I can buy time? Or do I have my own discretion that I'll dissolve the Parliament as I wish?
All right.
You get the point?
And we'll still solve a very huge legal question, because it's a very important thing you raise as regards to whether the President can, at his own discretion, because shall, as you have said, is mandatory. But then he doesn't. It doesn't look like he has a timeline on when, and we'll talk about the timeline. But do you concur with him that shall in this case means mandatory, and the President has no choice?
In the Bible and many other books, when force was applied to us, the word shall entailed. In the 10 Commandments, we are told, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. So there are no way you can go out of it. There were some issues coming up that English word will should have been put forward. But will gives you, it's English, and will gives you an open space to argue two things. Like I would give you, will you be going home? You can say yes or no. You or say yes and not go, or say no and still go. That is how will works. But shall does not give you an open space of refusal.
It's authoritarian.
It is so authoritarian.
Okay.
It doesn't have an open space for refusal.
All right.
However, in such a scenario we are in today, it is true we've gone against the law. I mean the constitution.
Yes.
The timeline was given of 5 years. We should have had a gender rule. We should have had women in parliament.
Yes.
The question is, and this is where the question comes up, when we go to law, and it's good I have a lawyer here.
Yes.
There is common sense and there is law. Where a common sense is a question where I would ask, if today I have a problem with you, brother, and I hit you and you faint, I'm not saying you die, you faint. I hit you, we didn't fight. I hit you, and then out of emotion that happened. When you go to law, how does it apply? That is where common sense comes in.
Okay.
We have this issue. Yes. Does the common sense open space for us to have an election?
All right.
Yes or no?
Okay.
And if the common sense does not have a space to have an election, then what else? And if we must have an election,
yes.
So when?
I think you're getting into uncharted waters because it's common sense and there's a law. And I think Wakili will also delve a little bit into that.
Yeah,
but Kamau, I'd want to hear your political opinion as what Chief Justice David Maraga did yesterday and what is provided for in the Constitution.
Thank you, JJ. And on this one, I'll still go, though I don't have the advantage of good English or understanding of it, I'll automatically go back to 2013 when we had the petition that was done by then was NASA. NASA group, and the argument that
2013 was COD.
Was COD, sorry. Thank you for the correction. And the lawyer who was representing Jubilee then argued on the word shall. Ngatia pleaded with the court on issue of the word shall. And he said shall is a futuristic word, meaning that you as much as someone Harvey yesterday was arguing of 21 days, the president, with if he applies his wisdom, he can it's a mandatory as he's saying, but he can argue with time because shall has not limit and it's a futuristic, so it can come tomorrow, the next year, or the August of 2022.
Right.
So he still have the advantage and the wisdom of time. That is where we call upon the President Uhuru Kenyatta to have the Solomonic wisdom and put this matter that has been brought to him by CJ Maraga.
And obviously, it's a good observation. But Kamau talks about being futuristic, and there might be debate on whether it's futuristic or it actually demands. But there's an issue of timeline. But before we get to the timeline issue, there's something Eric Regalo was trying to suggest about common sense vis-a-vis what is clearly outlined in the law. What are we dealing with here?
I think I would not call it common sense.
Yes.
I'd call it the best practices in law. That's I think it would be the best terminology to use.
Thank you.
Which we are in a situation whereby we can predict tomorrow. The law is clear. It's about dissolving the parliament. But the question comes in: will it be the best practice to do it now? Is the country in the position to do that election if it was to be? If Uhuru declares that he dissolved the parliament today, do we have the structures required to have by-elections in all the country?
Okay.
Do we have them? Those are the questions that maybe Uhuru will consider before he dissolves the parliament, because he has that responsibility legally. And that's why Maraga is provoking that article, because he knows Uhuru does not have a discretion. Although
so it's cast in stone that the president must dissolve this parliament.
The law is clear on that.
Okay.
Yes. He have no leeway. He have to face it as it is. I remember he said, I think Otieno Moro said, and still Orengo said, it's painful, but it's the only way we have to go. So I think that the question that is begging to the president is it the best practice? Are we in a position as a country to do it?
All right.
I think it's a matter, if you decide that we're in a position to do it, then we just have direction all throughout the country.
The most interesting thing about lawyers is that they never get to agree. Because I have seen some of them arguing the president cannot, because there's also the act of constitutionalism, where this is the president of the Republic of Kenya, elected under, elected by
Universal
over 8 million
suffrage,
people.
yes.
There's also delegation of power that has been delegated to him as an elected representative. And then he's being advised, because the Constitution talks about advice. This is the Chief Justice advising the president. But then you're also putting a caveat there that the president shall act on this advice. He doesn't have room to either ignore or think about it. It's to act on the advice.
Brother, thank you. Who interprets the Constitution?
It's the court.
Is the court.
Yes.
And the Chief Justice is the highest person in the court.
The president.
I'm saying in the courts, not in the country, in the courts.
yes.
Because it's the
No, he is the
president
president of the Supreme Court.
He's the president.
Oh,
He's the
I didn't
president.
get it. Yes, the president.
Yes, the
So we
president.
have 3 presidents. I forgot. LSK, Judiciary, and the nation.
Yes.
So the president, who is the Chief Justice, is the highest person in the court. He reads the Constitution and advises the president to the Constitution. Actually, the advice is he writes him what is supposed to be done by now. And he puts it to his mind that, hey, President, we have done this, we have reached here, and this is what's supposed to be done. So the president is provoked to remember that we are at this situation now, and this is what's supposed to be done. However, the question again of best practice comes in, that if we were to enact the gender role, we would be having over 600 parliamentarians by now. And 600 parliamentarians, and as at now, we have 349, we will have stretched the burden so much to Kenyans. The best practice again asks, did they try? Yes, they did. How many times did it fail? Not once, not twice. Did they have meetings to try? Of course they did. Didn't they want it to work? They wanted it. Women lawyers, Women League actually tried so much.
Including Kewopa.
Tried so much. And how did it fail? Because of such circumstances where even the Kenyan man thought this one is not applicable to us. I agree we are wrong. This is why we were told that 80% is okay in our constitution, 20% was not applicable.
All right.
I agree we are wrong. And I agree myself as Eric. But Eric as an employee, as an electorate of Kenya, gave mandate to his
the elected representatives.
Yes. To do their work for us. They found it not possible. And now it is coming to us to think over it. The only part I would think is, if it cannot work, we still have a leeway. This may be controversial. We have a BBI coming. Is it possible that this can be put inside the BBI? We have a way about it. I'm just giving a, because the president has no time frame or timeline.
Okay.
And can we have a space for it in the BBI?
And we'll talk about the choices we have moving forward, probably in terms of legislation. But I'm still coming, Kamau, to the issues as regards the executive power wielded by the president, who we always say carries the aspirations of 47 million Kenyans, is being advised by the Chief Justice, and then the Constitution almost makes him a lame duck, that his work is to receive the advice and act on it immediately.
On that issue,
Yes.
we as much as Kenyans are debating it now, and they are dwelling with it, like my colleague has said, the wisdom of the day is the country in a position to do such general election. Number two, there was the issue of the 41 judges that was proposed by the
Court of Appeal judges.
The 41 judges that
were supposed to be
they appointed. No, the ones that were supposed to be appointed.
But President Uhuru, in his own wisdom and activities of rules, he decided not to do that.
Okay.
And that's why the Constitution gives him no time limit, and that's why that mandatory word, according to Maina Kamunya, shall is a continuous. So you can't argue. As much as Harvey is campaigning for his generation to get into leadership at this particular juncture, it is still gives the president the wisdom of time to see whether his country that he represents of 50 plus million Kenyans, whether they have the economy themselves to do that. Also, how polarized is the country is. In fact, I would guess and I would think such formation of two-third rule, which is not limited to it, had there not been passed other laws, we could have such a form of CJ writing to the president saying that. Having said that, it is at the president's desk with his wisdom to want to advance his circle. Now he has been given to do and work out how he wants these things to be. Had he not been a wise president, he could have even actually done it yesterday. But this is going to take us time. Bearing in mind, even CJ Maraga, on him writing this, we are in a very period of pandemic all over the world. So if this thing he thought of through his wisdom as the president of the High Court, he could have seen it not now and probably talked with the petitioners to tell them, even when you look at our courts, we are not doing the normal courts. All justice is not carried out well.
And for clarity purposes, he's the president of the Supreme Court. In fact, he has not set on this matter just yet.
Yes.
At the Supreme Court, it was only decided at the High Court.
Yes. So now he needed some level of wisdom, so I can say. He's few months to the retirement, and this will go down as his last pen down. Okay, so he needed wisdom to know where we are as a country, the wisdom of the economy, and even the feeling of Kenyans. Now, how I see this,
he should have ignored the law for convenience.
He could have even called a conference of the petitioners, like my friend has said. Is this thing necessary now? Do we need that two-third application in our lives? Has it been done in our place of work, in our homes, in our locals, to go to parliament? Because
how shall it be done when we don't have the requisite law?
Because it
was supposed to follow a requisite law that is supposed to be passed in parliament.
Yes.
That is not even adopted. So we cannot even ask whether institutions have really.
In fact, what we are looking at,
if I may ask,
just a minute. What we are looking at is the law. Okay.
Yes.
In our mind, in our normal practices, do we apply the two-third gender rule in our own everywhere, or must it be rushed to be passed? Well, it has not gotten into our minds.
But that principle must be based on the law, which we don't have.
Let me come up here. Something he's bringing something very. You may not be getting it right. The social aspect of it. As much as we are going to two-third gender rule, what is the social aspect of Kenyans? But the way we vote in our country is more social. It's not what we are told, good roads and what. It's more social. I'm looking, and for us,
this constitution was not trying to govern the social aspects of the Kenyans. It was trying to govern the political process.
I know, but how did we get a two-third gender? How is the social life of Kenya? And why is it that when you bring two-third gender, it fails in the ballot?
Okay.
How did it fail in the ballot? We even tried to give positions, because women rep is a position formed where you don't have any other thing to do. You just have to vote a women rep. Should we go that way? Yes or no? How do we bring two-third gender? Should it be politically electable seats, or can we put it in our places of work and any other place?
Okay.
My feeling is, if you bring two-third gender rule in a political positions where you need to vote, it will never go through.
All right. There's something you wanted to respond to very quickly before I ask you the next question.
But I just wanted to correct my friend Kamau just a little bit. I think we need to understand the spirit of the drafters of the constitution.
Yes.
Why would they propose a two-third gender rule? Right? Because I think the mistake they did, and maybe that's the mischief that we need to correct.
Yes.
They borrowed so much because our constitution is borrowed from the US, right? So they borrowed so much to an extent they forgot that African are not in the same position politically as the US.
Okay.
You get the point? Those guys are celebrating around 200 years of independence. So their electorate are more wiser than us. They know the power of a women.
What would you say about Rwanda?
Just a minute. You know, I can give you the correct answer.
Give the comparison.
So Rwanda, what happened in Rwanda, I think to be not be the best example when it comes to democracy, because what happened to Rwanda? Remember, there was a genocide. So many men were wiped out.
There are more
right?
women than
So there are so many. There are more women in Rwanda than men. So when it comes to vying of political positions, women are more, so they are stronger than men.
Okay.
In Kenya, it's different. That gender rule was to redress an injustice that was happening in the future. There were no
In the past.
there were no women in our political spheres, so they needed to encourage women to get these positions. But I think the mistake they didn't reflect on our society, right? How did our society perceive the women leadership? Did they embrace women as leaders previously, right? So if they had looked at that situation, they would have understood that even if we are giving this as a aspiration in our constitution, we need to give it more time, more than 5 years.
All right.
You get the point?
I know this is, of course, these two issues are intermarrying, what the Chief Justice said yesterday and the reason for it, but I don't want us to lose track. I want us to still go back to the consequences of the decision by the Chief Justice yesterday. And I want a legal opinion from you as regards what Kamau says is futuristic. And we are saying the president doesn't have timelines in terms of when he should act on the advice given to him by the Chief Justice. And I want to hear from you. This advice given by the Chief Justice, and then the word shall is added there. Does it render the institution of Parliament as it is right now illegal? So what happens to the decisions it makes in between when the president is dilly-dallying to implement the advice by the Chief Justice?
You see, let us understand, and this is where I want my brothers to understand legally. Remember, the High Court of the Republic of Kenya is mandated constitutionally to interpret the Constitution. It's only court with that mandate. So the Chief Justice, who is the President of the Supreme Court, get advice. There's that presumption that before the Chief Justice advises the President, he have sat down with judges from the High Court, from the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. So they have a decision, right? I think he also have that privilege to be advised by the Law Society of Kenya, and then the Judicial Service. No, not Judicial Service. These are the
Civil society organizations.
Those ones. They have that privilege of advising the Chief Justice. But when the Chief Justice advises the President, it's not about him as an individual. It's about him as an institution behind him. You get the point? So when he advises the President, he's carrying the weight of the judiciary, right? And the law is clear. And what will happen today is that if the President has not dissolved the Parliament, any other law will be made in Parliament is null and void.
Yes.
You get the point?
So Parliament,
even
as it were right now, is illegal.
That is the point.
It's illegally constituted.
Even the BBI,
even 21
those
days.
laws that are required to pass the BBI cannot be made in Parliament because the Parliament as it stands today is null and void.
Null and void.
It cannot make any law. It cannot make any registration that will amount to law. You get the point?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's null and void.
That's quite interesting because
that's what I was saying. I am agreeing with everything.
Yes.
I agree, but that after 21 days, Parliament is unconstitutionally.
It's not about 21 days. As it stands, when
the declaration was made by the Chief Justice yesterday,
the President,
it rendered the whole institution
null and void.
Illegally constituted.
Yes.
So what happens then because we're saying the president has the liberty of time, and the question is, then if the action yesterday by the Chief Justice, hold on a minute, Eric, if the action by the Chief Justice, according to Wakili, renders Parliament as illegally constituted, then does the president even enjoy that grace of time?
Then this is very easy.
Yes.
That's how BBI will come even faster.
Yes.
How?
To who?
Let me put it clear.
Yes.
The Parliament was not able to enact after some sittings. Not one, not two. Even the Akamukunji, they could not agree. So it goes back to the president. The president now decides we are going to have our put this under people-driven. People-driven. Okay? So people-driven means it comes as a referendum to give us
Let me ask you very quickly. Hold on a minute, because Eric Ragalo is a house of records. I would say this is a debate of records.
Okay.
There are several items that are itemized under what should go for a referendum.
Yes.
The 2/3 gender rule is not among them. even if it were to go to a referendum, there are items that must go to Parliament so that they are actually, crafted in one way or another
no, it
to fit
doesn't-
into a
it-
referendum.
it
Hold on a
doesn't-
minute.
just- okay.
Hold on a minute. So the 2/3 gender rule, number one, is not an item for a referendum. Number two, you're trying to say that we can have a political process in the form of a
Yes,
referendum
yes.
without Parliament.
Yes.
How?
How? The referendum paper comes, okay? When the referendum question comes, this is how it goes. The BBI is finished. When it's given to president, the president takes it to IEBC.
Eric.
Then let me finish this process to IEBC.
Yes.
IEBC gives a what? A referendum question. The referendum question comes to the counties.
Hold
to the
on,
counties.
Maina Kamunya.
Sorry,
Hold on, because Eric, don't lose us. There's a referendum bill,
Yes.
okay?
Huh?
There is what must go to county assemblies, all right?
The referendum bill goes to counties first.
When it goes to counties,
First.
it must be adopted by more than half,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
After hold on a minute.
uh-huh.
I'm taking you through the process. After more than half probably pass or agree
Yes.
to the referendum bill, where does it go next?
It goes to Parliament.
And this Parliament you're talking
And
about has been rendered
listen here.
illegal.
Listen here.
Yes.
Parliament may agree or disagree, but as long as the county have passed it in half, it can be apprehended by the president. If I'm wrong, we have a lawyer here. There are two things. Parliament, even if it agrees, it will go to the president to sign. If it refuses that this is not okay, it still goes to president to sign. Actually, Parliament, after the counties, Parliament, whether they refuse or not refuse, the president signs it.
Maybe
Yes, very quickly.
maybe
put it-
before what he's not telling you, and he's trying to answer the question, although maybe it can happen this way.
Yes.
When the referendum question is put to the counties, it must go through all the counties.
Yes.
How long will it take to be the counties? Around 3 to 6 months. So meaning, if the president today dissolve the parliament, so how long does it take for us to have a by-election? 90 days, so 3 months. So meaning, before the bills come from the county assemblies, we can have a new parliament.
Yes.
You get the point?
All right.
But the question is, we need an IEBC to do the job in the counties, right? This parliament is not and void. Who will constitute and vet the IEBC members?
IBC commissioners.
Commissioners. You get the point?
Hold on a minute.
Just a minute.
Because that's a different debate you've opened
Yeah.
altogether. Yes.
So you see, that's why in all this scenario we are in, you can never outrule parliament.
Let me
If you
just
have a
ask
law,
him a question. At the position we are, is IBC fully constituted to take us through a referendum?
no, it's not.
Why?
It's not. It can't. You see, it's need a quorum of how many members?
Okay. So give
4. They have country.
There are only 3.
There are only 3 now. You get the point. So no decision can be made in that table. You get the point. So we are in this quagmire, and that's why I'm saying we can never rule out parliament. It's very critical in any process that this country is gonna take.
Before you rule out parliament, because we must think about the way forward, there's something you was talking about, the 2/3 gender rule. If we subject it, first of all, is it subjectable to a referendum in the first place?
It is already in the referendum. If you go, in fact, the easiest way to deal with the 2/3 gender rule is the BBI, the proposal in the BBI.
Okay.
If we get a parliamentary system, a pure parliamentary system or a hybrid, then we should not have any question on the 2/3 gender rule. It will be sorted once and for all.
What are we amending exactly? Because what is here is provided under Article 100 of the Constitution, and then gives us through this consequential law through Article 261, subsection 7. If we take this article to the referendum exactly, what are we amending? What are we subjecting to a referendum?
JJ, I don't know why you're
Just-
dwelling.
I will come to
No,
you.
I don't know why you're dwelling on the issue of law. This was a letter that was written to the president by the CJ.
The letter came from the law,
Came from the judiciary, the president of the,
based on the law.
based on the law.
Okay.
It was written to.
The president.
The president has also the legal capacity to write back.
No.
Wait a minute. To write back to the CJ, they have the wisdom of time. They have the wisdom of what the category they are putting the IEBC, the parliament, and the running of the nation. Because like he's saying, parliament is so critical in this. Parliament is so critical in budgeting and giving even the judiciary itself money. Parliament has a critical role in IEBC in all manner of things. So does it mean that that letter was written yesterday, as people are saying, constitutional crisis, will stop this country from operating? No, because the CJ, Maraga, the Speaker of the National and the Senate, and the President, as the three arms of the government, will have to sit and agree, because there are some wisdoms we, as people, and that is why we are represented by leaders. We are represented by the president and the judiciary, because as we cannot all be the chief justice, we can all not be the president. Let me finish.
Let me prod you a bit. Let me prod you a bit, because you're making several suggestions, which are really good, but that is based on hypothesis. The law is shall. And I want to hear from you when the law says shall, and at least there was an agreement between all of us, except that you said it was futuristic, but you said the president must act.
Now, the Speaker of National Assembly,
yes,
they are going to court as for this afternoon,
yes,
to challenge what the CJ has written.
Yes.
According to the legal matters, every other element of human beings has that human subjection. Okay? And this human subjection can even draw, and they can say the CJ acted in a certain manner, okay, which can be debated in court as long as we want. Does it mean that the country must stop in that debate?
Maybe
what I'm saying, wait, Kamunya,
it's okay.
Maina Kamunya. What I'm saying is this: we still have the wisdom of rule. And let me tell you one thing: when the Old Testament was written, and those guys who used to advise the judges and kings, most of them, they were castrated. Why? Because of something we call interest. CJ Maraga knows by next year he's out of the judiciary, and he wants to leave his mark. I don't want to mean physical castration in this manner, but I want to say, why does he, in the wisdom of men and women that has lived the age, want to put this country in a way it cannot move? So because we
That's
have
a political
law.
question now you're
exactly.
asking.
Now I'm saying,
yes,
as Minor said, Parliament is critical. Okay, executive is critical. The judiciary is critical. Do we have still the shall time to sit down and agree on this matter going forward? Because if it is dissolving the parliament, we'll have the advantage of even going there ourselves. But we have the budget on it.
Kamunya, respond to that. Hold on a minute. Respond to that, because he's saying in this shall, there ought to be negotiations.
They have to.
There ought to be negotiations
It's not
between
mandatory.
the judiciary,
yes,
parliament, and the executive that is led by the president. But according to your legal opinion, is that parliament, as it were, right now, is illegal. There is also that provision, like you said, of the word shall and being mandatory and stuff like that. Does this allow room for negotiation?
Before you answer, just to add on him, because he's the legal officer here of the High Court of Kenya. Before he adds on that, there is no way a legal way or a constitution can be left to that. There is no human subjection in like people sitting down, and that is why there is law, so that two people can agree, those who didn't agree yesterday.
So the government, the court convicts
the president of the court.
The court convicts you of murder.
Yes.
So you, the murderer.
Yes.
And from the family that you murdered.
Yes.
And the judge.
Yes.
You go sit down and negotiate.
That's why there is a court of law.
Yes, people sit down. I'll give you an example. Let me give an example.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Murder cases are not sorted out of court.
You see, not even murder, even rape, even even attempted.
Yeah.
Don't. When there is a crime, there's no negotiation. The law is clear. The court, the due process.
Okay.
You get?
The due process is shall.
Anyway, what we are talking about here is not a capital offense.
Yes.
Go ahead.
What I need Kamau to understand is this: Kenya does not exist in an island, right?
It is joined to other countries.
It forms part of international organizations. It have international obligations and covenants, and these other nations in the world cannot subject themselves to a country that does not uphold and protect the law.
And that is why you cannot you cannot stop a country from operating.
Hold on, come on.
If a country is not ruled by a rule of law, then other international organizations and international bodies will walk away from that country.
Right? Kamau was asking a simple question, except that he also brought in politics. But he was asking something very important. So what happens here? Is there room for talks? Is there room for negotiation?
Or should we go home and drive?
No.
He's coming there.
I'm going there. And that's why I'm saying, you see, those who are going to court today are going there with one notion, that every general rule have an exemption. That's what we're saying. Every rule can be subjected to.
Should there be or should there not?
Just a minute. Let me allow you.
Go ahead.
The principle here is every law or every grand norm have an exemption, and they're gonna go to court challenging. One of the thing I'm sure they're gonna challenge is the judiciary, is the Supreme Court itself. Is it legally constituted as per to the gender rule?
Yes.
As it stands? No, it's not.
Exactly.
Is the executive constituted as per one
No.
that gender rule? It's not. Is parliament the same? No. So why just single out parliament? Leave out the Supreme Court and the executive. You get the point? Those are the matters they're gonna take to court. And
Hold on a minute. I want you to guide
That
us
is
here.
so beautiful.
that we don't- hold on a minute. So you guide us, we don't get lost here.
Yes.
Is Parliament being dissolved because it is not constituted according to the 2/3
Or it's the
gender
law
rule?
itself.
Yes.
Or are they being dissolved for the failure
To pass.
to pass the requisite law?
You see, one, they are not properly constituted by the law.
Parliament. Yes.
It's not.
Now
Right?
listen, hold on a minute. I will repeat Article 261, subsection 7.
Yes.
That if Parliament fails to enact legislation with an order under Clause 6B, the Chief Justice shall advise the President to dissolve Parliament, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. Clearly, this is not because Parliament doesn't
It is
have
the law itself.
the right number of women in that Parliament to balance with the men. It is because they have failed terribly.
What is happening?
To pass the law.
This, not the law. This was a constitution. So when you do a constitution, there are other laws that binds to a constitution. So they were to enact laws that assist the constitution.
And they have
Remember,
not.
this was what the constitution
have.
read.
They have.
So they tried to enact. There is a party walishindwa. Party ya kuongeza numbers. Let me use
The
Kiswahili.
question,
And very quickly is the point is they have not enacted
they have
the law.
They have JJ. They have.
How?
Go to all the appointment seats, right? Go to maybe leave around political seats. Go to maybe a ministry or whatever. You find that they have abided by 2/3 gender rule. The only problem is in the political, and that's where our viewers should understand.
Maina Kamunya.
Just a minute.
Hold on a minute. I will
Just
not let you- No. It's only fair that we balance this thing. You've said they have enacted. Which law? Because you must quote, it's a statutory law number or this, it is called this. Which law have they passed?
What there is
Is there a law
No.
that enacts the 2/3
What there
gender
is
rule? Yes.
the bill was very clear from day one, the Dwara bill, that you should have gender representation equal, right? And if you go to many organizations, you find that there is. Go to NGOs. If the head is a guy, the second is, that is existing. But go to...
You're not understanding me. You've talked about the Dwele bill.
Yes.
I'm asking, has the president assented to any law regarding
But you see,
the gender
but you see, it does not require the president to assent before, because the idea here was, let us have this representation, right? And I'm saying other bodies except the political seats embrace that move. You get the point?
Kamunya,
Just a
if-
minute.
You're dwelling-
if-
no,
exactly,
because-
Kamunya.
hold on a minute,
Just
hold on
a
a minute.
minute, just-
Come
I
on,
don't-
and I understand him.
I want you to-
Unfortunately, we are dwelling on semantics.
The problem
hold on a
is
minute. We are dwelling on semantics. And I have asked you a very simple question. As per Clause 7 of Article 261, that if Parliament fails to enact legislation, and I am asking a very simple question.
Is
Leave
there any
alone whether
legislation
people,
that passed?
through goodwill, are enacting the 2/3 gender rule in whatever board or in whatever appointments. I'm asking, is there a law
There is not.
passed by Parliament?
There's not.
Period.
There's not.
So why Parliament is being dissolved is for the failure to enact that law.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the constitution is supreme.
Yes.
We are supposed to follow the constitution as we enact other laws under it. So the constitution has a time frame. We were given 5 years to have a 2/3. 5 years starting
2010.
2010. You understand?
We are 10 years
We are
past.
yes.
Yes.
Then again we were reminded, not that we were not reminded, and we were given another 5 years from 2013. We were reminded, remember. Then we didn't do it. Having known we are going to be in trouble, Duale tried. Not once, not twice. Alileta ikagongwa. Using Kiswahili. Akarudisha tena ikaanguka. You understand? So the constitution says what in failure? The constitution is very outright. It takes you to 261 subsection 7. It tells you if you don't enact in a Kurudisha subsection 6, which you read 6, it will tell you what 7 is saying. If you don't enact, then the Chief Justice shall communicate to the president and tell the president what it was done. So he has done his work. And I agree. I don't see a problem with that. I have agreed. But my issue is, as much as we are in trouble here, and I'll be honest with you, my brothers here, of course, here we are also not enacting our gender rule where we are seated. And I'll be honest here, it's
a social matter.
impossible. It is impossible to have a 2/3 gender rule in Kenya.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
And we will talk
Why am I saying it's
But
not,
you
it's not
see,
possible? Let me just finish, bro. Why is saying it is impossible? And I'll give a scenario. Amaluo, who has been brought up in Kikuyu Nation.
Yes.
It's impossible to tell all Luos to undergo the rights that the Kikuyus go through. Because that is a social norm of the Kikuyu Nation. Also, Luos have their social norm. Of course. And that's why FGM still is a problem in Kenya. You cannot force them, but you can always educate them.
Okay.
Why is it impossible? This is electable. You can enact this other places where people get employment and what have you. But under political problem, and I'm saying here as Eric Ragalo, you will not force me to elect 10 women when we are having 13
but you see,
men.
Hold on a minute,
It's not possible. You cannot mix it.
I want us to escalate
We
this
want
conversation.
men and women to come and campaign.
And somebody has said
give
something.
a leeway and a flat area for everyone to campaign. Let a woman lead because that woman won the election. You cannot give me a position that I have to have this number of women. I mean, and this women reposition should also be scrapped. It should not even be there.
So we are clear. We are not here to discuss it, to discuss the merits of the 2/3 gender rule or not. Let's discuss the consequences of what the Chief Justice said yesterday. And somebody has told me in the Cambridge English Dictionary, shall used to say that something certainly must happen. May is used to express possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
And an example in a sentence is that blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are senior counsels, for they may eat public money.
Oh man.
but JJ, I wanted to request you for do us a favor.
Yes.
Read for us Article 27, Sub-Article 6 of the Constitution.
As I prepare to read you that, because I must get my constitution very quickly, I want to come out to be responding to one question. Did Parliament bring this on themselves? Because from the time the constitution was passed in 2010, we had a previous Parliament. We've had the Parliament that was there from 2013 to 2017. It's actually 10 years since we passed this constitution. Did they bring it on themselves? Should they have done something on this legislation, at least to escape from, the vagaries of Article 261?
The Parliament of Kenya,
Yes.
and this law of two-third gender rule, this was an enticing law.
Yes.
It was not actual for the benefits of Kenyans. And it's like you buy a child a sweet
Yes.
so that you can win favor from them. When this law was being done, we were at the advantage of passing the new constitution.
Yes.
And this law, as it is, the parliament has tried its best, and we can give credit for what they've tried. They've done the women caucus and the whole parliament full of men. They've tried all their wisdom to pass this law, but they realized this is a sweet, like a tropical sweet, to entice. And it was done then so that the constitution of the day could pass. So I don't see anything, I don't see it passing in Kenya. I actually don't want
think it will be
I
passing?
actually don't want it near us.
You are like
It
me.
is the obligation as a man who will open the door for a lady, do this and that to encourage them to work or be elected. I can, as a gentleman, I can say, no, I'm not going to run for this seat because my sister is here and I want them to advance. But if we put it in law, we will never have a parliament in Kenya. We will never have a government. We'll never have a running, and like my brother is trying to educate me on international relation that Kenya has in this republic, because we are not wired into doing that. And we have, you're telling us we borrow from USA. USA has existed, but we don't need USA. USA need us to understand who we are as a people going forward as we interact with them.
All
If
right.
I affirm what he's saying,
Yes.
I'll give you an example. I want
Yes.
to affirm what he said. We had the first woman who ran for presidency in Kenya, Charity
Mama Ngilu.
Ngilu. She was given platform to go everywhere. She had men behind her who assisted her. Anyang' Nyong'o.
But the odds against a
they
woman
were
are not
there.
the same as the
No,
odds against a man.
don't put odds here. Women beat us in school. Is odds? How are we different from them? I'm a medic
Let's
now. I'm
bring-
going back to medic now. Women have a bigger brain capacity than men.
True.
We all know that.
Yes.
They are three dimension. They can think. They can actually talk to you. They are feeding the kid, and they're also washing plates.
Okay.
Doing three things.
Let's bring back
they
the
have
conversation.
They have better, so much better.
I agree.
Yeah. So
next,
when you
next Friday, probably, we can discuss the probabilities of, the 2/3 gender rule and whether it should pass or not. But you asked for Article 27 of the Constitution.
Article 6.
part 6.
Part 6, it's under equality and freedom from discrimination.
Yes.
Part 6 says to give full effect to the realization of the rights guaranteed under the under this article, the state shall take legislative and other measures, including affirmative action programs and policies designed to redress any disadvantaged or any disadvantage suffered by individuals or groups because of past discrimination.
Have the state done that?
No, who has been discriminated? Ask
a
from that.
Just a minute.
From the source.
Hold on a minute.
Just a minute, because I want him to answer it legally. Who has been discriminated in this
Women
Republic of Kenya?
You see, Kamau, just a minute.
Can I put a full stop into my words and then you can cut cap?
okay.
Because if you're going to do legal matters, you have to do your position
But
where you give a chance to
he knows why
someone
he
to
asked
hear.
for Article 27.
Exactly.
You should have allowed him.
Now you're saying you can't read that section in a blanket. Why do I say so? Because you need to ask from the source. Between a boy and the group you're saying, between a boy and a girl, a woman and a man, a whoever and whoever who has been discriminated. So from that
okay.
point of
That's
view,
a
then
debate.
give.
That's a different debate we are opening, and I have
you see,
said
Kamau.
we will
Okay.
set a date for
Come
that.
to what you are
Continue.
saying.
Explain what you wanted under Article 27, Clause 6.
And I want to invite Kamau to just make the concession your friend, right? and other go books. You understand? Things are not made in vain. There's a spirit that's guided those guys to draft the constitution the way it is.
Yes.
Right? We are talking about 10 years down the line. Was the political temperature, was the political environment the same as it was 10 years down the line?
no.
It wasn't. Things have really changed. You get the point? So those are the drafters had seen a situation whereby women had been discriminated in leadership for quite some time, and that's clear, right? Come 2017, how many men did we erect? Leave around women rep. Even if I'm sure, even if that seat is given to all
If
gender,
it was electable,
yes,
all gender,
if
women.
make that women rep seat for both male and female. You'll be surprised.
Wanawake wawili tu wangeshinda.
You get the point. How many government did we get in 2017? I think three or four. You get the point. So we are saying this provision was to come and correct and redress an injustice that happened in the past.
Kamunya, are you addressing
Just a
the
minute.
representative of women in parliament
Allow
and in
me to make
leadership
it.
or in the all circles?
Allow me to make this point. This constitution is not made for parliament alone. It's
But you're
made-
saying representatives.
Come out. This constitution is not made for the parliament alone. It's made for the whole nation.
Yes.
You get the point? And it's by all of us, and each and every one of us should respect and protect the constitution.
But it is about appointive.
Yes.
Appointive and elected.
That's why I said appointive is easy to do it. It has been done in other organizations. The only problem we have is about political. And I said here, it can be done. The only thing we need to change, we need to look at the structures of our politics, the structures of our current
current presidential system.
Exactly.
Vis-a-vis other systems.
So if you get the pure parliamentary system like in the South Africa, then you can be able to correct this injustice. But are the political class willing to do this? Because in parliament, why that bill has for around 4 times is because the male colleagues are not willing to pass that bill. You get the point? Why? Maybe
Because of the wisdom of the day.
No, come out. I think you have daughters, right?
Yes.
Maybe 10 years down
I
the line.
actually have
It's okay,
many
it's
than
okay.
that's the son.
You see, 10 years down the line, it may be the other way around. You may be crying for the ballot.
No, my son will fight for his space.
No, come out.
He
Go ahead,
doesn't
make
need
your
the
So I'm saying
advantage of the space.
I'm saying this, I'm sure that those who are going to court today, they're going to challenge this legislative based on whether the executive has complied with the law, the parliament, and the judiciary. Right? Because I understand that it's not possible as we stand today. Even if the president dissolves the parliament,
It will
not be achieved
It will not be achieved.
in near future.
JJ.
So we need our
Hold
realistic
on,
change.
because I want us to go to the election bit. But Maina Kamunya, there's something I want you either to understand or explain to us. Why did the Chief Justice advise the president to dissolve Parliament?
One, the parliament have failed
4 times.
4 times.
They've tried. They've tried.
Then you make my
The
point.
parliament has
Make-
failed.
I think I'm
Of course, when you try,
Parliament
you don't
has
make
failed.
When
it.
you've
Go ahead,
given
make
the
your point,
credit
make
of
your point
time.
very quickly. Guys,
Come on,
guys,
come on,
guys,
come on.
guys.
You are
Order,
Kamau, you are
order,
Kamau,
order.
am I Kamunya?
Parliament has failed.
Have failed.
Yes.
2, it is time barred.
Yeah.
The constitution had given them 5 years.
5 years.
We are talking about 10 years. So do they have an excuse to give to the president?
Is there evidence of them trying and,
Has
not, and failing?
Has the chief justice given the parliament enough time to juggle around and see whether they can be able to sort the mess?
Yes.
You have been patient
been
for
given time.
for 5 years, more 5 years. So I think it's right for the
Then
chief
what is
justice.
the merit of the argument you're making? That if we go to court to challenge this decision, they will challenge it based on whether the executive or the judiciary have complied. Because what is clear in the constitution is it is not because parliament doesn't have the requisite number of women to fulfill the 2/3 gender rule. Why they are being dissolved is that failure in itself.
To enact.
Exactly.
To enact.
Exactly.
So then going to argue whether executive is compliant or not, is it a watertight argument based
not.
on
In fact, like
my-
Maina Kamunya
no,
said,
let
just
me-
a minute,
let me-
just a minute, Eric.
it can't be
Maina
order.
Kamunya said, Kenya does not exist in its own whatever. What do you call this thing? Does not exist in.
It's not
yes.
a vacuum.
It will invite
doesn't
other jurisdictions of the world to come and help them unlock this thing, because those who are going to court will say in Kenya we cannot have this. Why? They'll give their evidence why, because they've tried, and that is why JJ is asking you, has the executive, judiciary and the parliamentary 1 minute tried? And one thing, this law you're talking about, the law was made for man, not man for the law. And the Sabbath also, the Sabbath was not made for. It is man who controls this thing. So this legal stone that you've put in that jar that your hand cannot come, you need to release the stone in 1 minute, because the wisdom that is in this world of how the laws of this world has existed, it is not a new thing. This parliament you're casting now has tried how many times, Eric? 4 times to just give you the people you're saying they have been discriminated away because they are gentlemen.
According
and
to the
women.
constitution,
but you see-
trying is
but
not
let me-
enough.
let me-
Trying is not
let me-
enough.
let
No,
me-
hold on a minute.
Let me say something. I was
Ragala
going to say something.
Yes.
You were asking, now what? Now what is very simple. We need, because this is governance. These are matters governance. Because actually parliament is part of governance. When you handle parliament and change the system of parliament and everything, you'll even change you change governance.
Yes.
So for us to enact this, and I was saying this, and this is still the answer, these should go out of the presidential system. Under the presidential system, this one cannot work. If they want it to work, we need to go back into the
BBI.
drawing board
Yes.
and have a BBI and have a pure hybrid system. Pure hybrid system will even allocate areas where we'll give women to run.
No, that can't happen. Don't misguide Kenyans. You can never take that sovereign power of a Kenyan to vote who he deserves. Remember, there was a suggestion that we have some seats special for women in some constituencies. That can never happen under the new constitution you have in Kenya. I am obliged and I can choose whoever I want to choose in the ballot. You get the point? So the law is supreme.
Let me ask you. I'm not
But in
asking. I'm
the
just
woman
asking.
reposition,
No,
you
I'm-
didn't choose
no,
between a man and a
you see-
woman.
you see,
Thank you. That is what I wanted
see-
to
you
say.
see,
In
the
the
woman
women
position didn't choose
reposition,
between
we
a
were
man and a
actually
woman.
No,
shackled.
and that's why I said, that's why I told you to read Article 27, Sabbatical 6. Because it was given that affirmative action, not for life, but for a period of time to redress and try to sort out this mess. It's already expired.
Okay.
You get? So if it is expired, then we go back to erective positions. So we may not have women having a special seat just for them. You get the point? So what we are saying is, what we are seeing today is more than you can think.
Okay.
It's not about women just being...
I want us to escalate this conversation. Come on. I
I'm,
don't want us
I'm
to get
happy
to the
what
merits.
he's trying to say.
Yes.
This is more than you think. It may not be about women.
Yes.
It may be about holistic Kenya.
All right.
And that's why I was saying governance.
Governance.
If only we
JJ,
can redress this, we have to change governance.
I
in
know
this
you want to
country.
go for a break.
But no, I'm not even taking a break because we're just rotating around women, men. But there's a very big question to ask ourselves here. And I think this is not what we're seeing. We said shall is mandatory. And I'm still going back to the law. that shall is mandatory, then the president has no choice. The other consequence is if parliament tries to make any legislation in between here until when the president decides to dissolve parliament, then that law is null and void. The question is, are we ready for an election if the president calls for one?
No.
I've told my brother Kamunya,
Yes.
the law is made for
Man,
not man for the.
for the law.
Can my basic question could be, can Chief Justice Maraga withdraw his letter that he has written to the president? That is I'm asking from a point of from a human point of view, because we have a country and I'm taking my I want to do this because they will have to go for a negotiation.
Yes.
Because before it gets to the court of law, and the Bible says before you take your brother to the court, first agree. Are we ready to go for an election, or can CJ Maraga withdraw this letter of where he wrote it to go and take it back and say, we've seen the wisdom
Can you
of the
respond
day?
to Kamau?
I think let me respond
Chief
to
Justice
Kamau.
to call that letter.
Let me tell Kamau.
Yes.
Any nation like us, a democracy as we are governed by a constitution, and we are bound to obey it and fulfill and follow a rule of law.
And
Just a minute.
Yes.
Just a minute. No matter how painful it can be, right? Who thought that CJ Maraga would nullify an election?
But he did.
He did. Did we go for Iran? Yes, we did. Maraga is.
Kamau is trying to suggest Maraga should have recalled that decision.
You see, and that's why I'm saying, come out, and I know you are in for a parliamentary seat. You get prepared with the constitution and understand the law clearly. Because as we stand today, Maraga have done the best he could done.
Exactly, and no one is doubting that. No one is doubting that.
No. Remember, he saw by oath that he shall uphold and protect the constitution,
Which he has done.
Which
There's
he has
a
done.
chance.
He has
And
even
that's
given
why-
he has even
and
given
that's why-
us
Because you've already brought the debate.
he
Because
has
you've already
even
brought the
look,
debate.
he has even given us
Because
let me
you
now
have-
my argument is, and
Let
I think
me-
I support him.
Because-
My argument
let me
is
finish,
let
let me
me just give
finish. No,
this.
just a
This
minute.
is a point so that you may add in that. The same way after 5 years Maraga saw it best to give us a leeway. Saw it best
No.
to give us another 5 years.
There's no
you
leeway.
see, I'm just giving an, because at 5 years we should have had this, but we delayed for another 5 years and he kept quiet.
There are those
You
who
understand?
ask- there are those who
So
ask me-
now that he has seen the tough part, and we are agreeing, we made a mistake, and we know. But we also know the mistake we've done, we cannot change. Things are hard now. It is not possible.
Maybe-
so now,
maybe
can
my
Maraga just
brother-
let it be? We pass the BBI and get hybrid.
No,
then
no.
we get
Maybe-
then we enact all the laws of this thing before the election, so that under an election we have another electoral process and get the ladies in.
I can't.
The question
you
is-
see, just JJ, I can't take that. Maybe I would take a little bit. If you tell me there's setting scores between the executive and judiciary, that I can at least try to understand you. But saying that Maraga can give a leeway, he can.
So he's
There's
not.
a
He,
debate
can,
you
he
brought-
cannot
there's a
pull
debate
up.
you brought-
He cannot
he
pull
can.
back the
Ragalo,
letter.
Can't.
Ragalo, there's a
Yeah.
debate you brought, and I know we ought to go back to the election issue because that's the agenda. But you talked about Maraga and his legacy.
Yes.
There are those who ask, what is Chief Justice David Maraga's jurisprudential legacy? Other than these rulings that appear, because there are those who say these rulings are just meant to look like you're clapping back at the president. Does he have a jurisprudential legacy? What is his philosophy in terms of law?
But you see, Maraga is a kind of a judge that we call the positivist.
Okay.
Positivist class of judges.
Okay.
And what these guys do, they apply the law as it is. They don't question. You get the point? If you remember in the Supreme Court, the rights of Joki Dong are a bit conservative. So they apply logic. But positivists apply the law as it is. That's
Absolutist.
Exactly. That's how Odunga is, Justice Odunga is, and Maraga. You get the point? And if you remember, even during the vetting, Professor Kidungai said, one of the things that he likes about the Chief Justice is that he's a positivist. He does not question the law. He applied the law as it is.
Okay.
And that's what he did.
Okay.
So that his legacy will stand, having nullified an election, a presidential election, and that have set precedent in Africa. You remember?
All right.
You get the point?
So the letter cannot be recalled.
He cannot.
That is what you're saying.
No.
Is it possible then to hold an election?
It is possible.
Part of JJ.
Just a
Your
minute.
letter cannot
But
be recalled.
IBC,
I'll
but
give you time.
IBC is
I'll give you
not.
time.
But
Minor,
IBC
minor.
is not
Hold on.
reconstituted.
Eric.
So
No,
how
no,
do
no,
you-
you see-
Hold on a minute. I'll give you time to respond. Oh, But to answer your question, your letter cannot be recalled.
What?
So respond to the. I will come to you for the
You
election.
see, the letter cannot be called. The country can hold election. Yes, it can. The only question is it, and I said here as we are beginning the show, it's just a matter of practice, right? Are we in a position to do that financially, right? Is the country willing to that elections? Will the Kenyans who are represented by the president, 8 million voters, right? Or 50 million
No,
plus,
47 million people.
47 million people have, with the president, with the wisdom he have and the bearing of the nation, allow that to happen, right? But does he have a leeway? No, the law is clear. So he saw by law that he shall protect and follow the constitution.
Abu, give us the way forward because you're a lawyer. When you tell us, will the president allow for this election? But you already told us this thing is mandatory. He must do it.
He must do it.
So I'm asking you, this election looks like it is inescapable. It must be done. But the question is it practically possible to have an election?
I belong to the class of lawyers who believe that there is no way out of this. We have to have by-elections.
Hey.
Is it practically possible?
It is.
Do you have the budget?
Hold on a minute. You told us any decision taken by Parliament moving forward is null and void.
Yeah.
IBC, as currently constituted, is not legal because you only have 3 commissioners. The other day, I had them say they don't even have funds to do boundary review. That should be done, sometime this year, or actually should be done by now. That means even the money to do an election is not available. Even the preparedness itself.
Even the
Although I had
budget
them
itself.
say they will use equipment that they used in the 2017
The budget
election.
is through the parliament.
Is it practically possible to have an election?
But you see, let me say this. We have to allow the rule of law to take its course.
We cannot stay there minor.
on,
Hold on a minute. It's the rule of
I don't
law.
mean to- I don't
I'll give you time to tell us
Yes,
where we should stay. Yes.
Wait for your question. You see, let us allow the constitution to take its part. You see, I think Maraka said very critically, and he knew this. If you read the letter that he submitted, he said it's painful.
He did. I saw.
He knows it's
However
painful.
much it's painful.
Yeah, we
Yes.
must bear it.
Yes.
Because we cannot we cannot allow impunity to run our country. You get? So if it means that we can't do by elections because we don't have capitals, we don't have money. What if next 2022 we do an election, it is nullified, then we say that there's no money?
Kamunya, you're speaking like a lawyer,
Yes.
and I appreciate
Uh-huh.
because you're saying the rule of law. This is what must be done, and
Yes.
I agree. That is what must be done. But I'm asking you, in all practical purposes, and one of them includes the reconstitution or
Of the-
reconstitution
you
of the
wish we go that
IEBC, which must go through Parliament. This is a purely legal process also. Is it practically possible then, and on the grounds which we stand, for the IEBC as currently constituted to conduct an election of that magnitude?
You see, my opinion is this. There are those lawyers who are already working on that ambiguity because it's not clear. We had not foreseen a situation whereby we can have by-elections or the parliament can be dissolved without a formidable IEBC. You get the point? So I think they can rush to court and ask for an opinion of the court.
Okay.
You get the point? Okay. So that if we're going to have by-elections, we are already clear that before we have these by-elections, then the country can go this way to make sure that we have an IEBC.
All right. You've answered my question.
The
Ragalo, there are those who argue.
The situation
Hold on
that
a minute before
we
you
are
respond.
in is the situation where Nairobi is.
Before you respond, there are those who argue this is not a presidential election.
It is not a
That a
presidential
general election is what
is-
requires a fully constituted
constituted
IEBC.
yes.
This is a by-election.
Yes, so
And there are those who argue probably these 3 commissioners with the secretariat can manage a by-election.
It is a by-election for all MPs.
Yes.
And this is a situation where Kenya is finding itself, like Nairobi. If I'll give an example. If Sonko was impeached today, will you have an election?
We will.
We'll have a new governor and new deputy. After the speaker
Has run it for
some few
90
days, let me
yes.
say some few days,
Yes.
then you have an election. However painful it is, if Sonko is not in that seat, Nairobi will undergo an election.
Yes.
Okay? However painful it is, Kenya can have a parliamentary election, not a general election. Parliamentary election is the parliament itself get dissolved, they go back, campaign, ODM, whatever it is, campaign, come back. The problem is, and this is the real deal, that so many of them have done a lot of sins. so many of them will not come back. That is one.
That's fair. Maybe Kamau should take advantage of that.
Yes. Two is the president with his wisdom want to save his MPs. Okay. 3, does he have a government to run? He has his cabinet. PSs are there. Are they constitutionally wrong to be there? No. So the government can still run.
Yeah.
Are MPs supposed to earn a salary? No. Even if they go for a sitting, they should not earn Uhuru. They are wrong to be in that. Actually, they should have.
So you're saying
earning.
from now the pay slip should not come?
Yes, it is. They should not even have gotten their pay from the first 5 years when it went.
All right.
But they were given a leeway. But from this letter, they're supposed not to earn anything.
Maybe for
fair point to make. Before you go, let me just give Kamau. I know I'll come back to you. Kamau, is it practically possible to have an election? And somebody suggests maybe this is the time.
No, because we, from the sample I have here, these two gentlemen don't appreciate their member of parliament and the work they do. And all the 3 years, they've not done anything.
You appreciate yours?
I appreciate mine, but I'm going to contest 2022. Now,
no, you will not contest in this by-election that is coming.
I don't think there's anyone.
One minute. You didn't understand. He was saying, is it practically possible? He didn't say whether yes or no.
Yes.
That's what I want to answer.
The question.
I want to answer him.
Okay.
I want to answer him. It is not practical.
Okay.
For one, as we sit here, we need to bear in mind, and that's what I started by saying, we have a pandemic called COVID-19. The things that has changed in this government in this period that we didn't know is a lot. So if the country or the government stays is going to lock this country for the next 6 months, and we don't need to participate in any meeting, the government itself through the executive has the power to do that, because it tells us by 9 be at your home. Okay? So that this curfew is where, which law?
No,
I want to finish.
No, you see.
I'm talking politically.
No,
you talk low.
let him
You talk
finish.
low.
No, hold on a minute. Maina Kamunya. I am the only person who allows people to do things.
So I'll give you all the time. You will talk.
You're misguiding us.
So don't tell him you will
what
not
I'm,
allow
what
him.
I'm trying
Let
to
him.
say is,
You will say what is
the
misleading.
president has wisdom, Solomonic one. When Solomon was given that baby by the 2 ladies, and I see one being Kamunya, that lady knew that has slipped on the baby.
Kamunya is the one who wanted the baby split.
Now the mother of the baby said, "No, give that baby to this lady. I'm good to go with that." But Kamunya want the baby to be split into 2. It's a dangerous position to be, Kamunya.
Okay.
But now the president, with his own wisdom, he won't allow this country to go to by election.
So
basically
you are telling us that the president can
if
bear...
shove comes to push...
No, you are telling us the president can bear impunity.
If the shove comes to push...
If the push comes to shove.
If the shove comes to push...
Push comes to shove.
Push, it's shove comes to push, whatever. The way you see it, whatever. If that comes to it,
Yes.
and there is budget for it,
Yeah.
the president should dissolve this parliament, make it redundant, as they are saying, and when they get there, because it will take some time, make sure the judiciary does not get its budget.
What happens in between here, Kamau?
Yes.
Because you're saying the president will note his Solomonic wisdom and stuff like that.
Yes.
Very nice words you're
Yes.
using.
Solomon
But
two babies.
we have already agreed
Yes.
that, as it were, the dissolution of parliament is actually now almost cast in stone, as it were. So what happens to their operations in between here, and when the president, in his Solomonic wisdom,
Yes.
decides to dissolve parliament, as you're saying?
The only person who has the obsolete of power and law is the president.
No.
He doesn't have a...
By that I mean, let me finish. This element, because you took that I said CJ David Maraga should withdraw. The note that I was trying to pass to you and you picked it is that there's still a room for negotiation between these 3 parties, which is the executive, the judiciary, and parliament. They will sit down, and I can tell you, and talk about what Maraga pushed for the parliament to be dissolved. So there is that element of negotiation.
Hold on a minute. Come on, you're trying to tell us that this will be a conglomeration of 3 parties in the government that will be planning on how to defy the constitution.
I'm talking about negotiation.
Okay. Let me give another scenario. Let me give another scenario. It's me. Let me give you another scenario. What if this has jolted the MPs?
The what?
What if of course, he told
They're
me
jolted.
immediately they are jolted already. Yes. What if president again sit down and then they decide, let's MPs get a sitting to look at this thing, and they pass it. After they have passed it, the president assents to it. Within that 1 month or 2 months, we have a referendum. Then we correct it.
We correct it.
And
that power that the judiciary has to be trimmed.
No, you know,
this law of probabilities we are dealing with.
Do this, JJ, yeah? Read for them Article 2 of the Constitution.
Before I read Article 2, there's something I need you to respond to, because you say the government will continue operating even when Parliament stands dissolved.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The three arms of government run the government. And you're trying to tell us that it's the one arm of government that can run government without the other. And I'm asking because there are supplementary budgets that come to Parliament. There are other statutory laws and policies that need to be made by this Parliament in regards to the operations of government. If the president dissolves Parliament, you're trying to tell us that the work of government will not be derailed?
Okay.
Because of the law?
I think that's what Maraga had foreseen. The pain he was talking about.
Yes.
You get the point? Within those 3 months before we do the by-elections, of course the country will suffer, right? But is it proper to correct that injustice? Yes, it is, of course. Yes. You get the point? Yes. So we are sure and we know that within those 3 months, there may be some inconveniences between the government operations and order here and there, but that will not bar the Constitution from its operation.
Article 2 of the Constitution,
which
article
number 2, article number 3.
Subarticle number 3, the validity or legality of this Constitution is not subject to challenge by or before any court or other state organ.
That is it. The validity of the Constitution.
Can I repeat it for Kamau?
Okay, please do.
For who?
That the validity or legality of this Constitution is not subject to challenge by or before any court or other state organ.
That is it.
That is the wisdom that
no.
Can I? Minor.
Allow me to make the point.
Hold on a minute.
Let him make the point. I'm the one who said it's somewhere.
Yes.
The reason why...
And very quickly.
Yes, I said that because Kamau need to understand what the law stipulate is supreme. It binds each and every one of us and even state organs, both executive, Parliament and the judiciary.
Okay.
Take that.
So you're saying they can't sit to negotiate?
That is the wisdom.
There's no room for that.
Okay.
Eric, just a minute.
Eric, that is the wisdom of what?
My friend, Maina Kamunya, that is what, and the wisdom that was needed by CJ David Maraga.
That's what he did. Exactly, that's what he did.
I'm at the end of my statement, so you need to give me some time to finish.
Please do.
Okay.
So he needed to consult to know that this country where he's putting it, even him, he won't even have food.
Come on, you have a problem.
Let him make a statement.
I'm talking from the Wanjiko perspective. He won't even have food on his table because the salary he gets is budgeted.
No. I would not allow to make that.
I'll give you time to respond.
Even if you're talking from Wajiko, you need to understand one thing. We are talking about
order.
Aspiration.
Be orderly.
Okay, sorry.
Be orderly. Make your statement.
He needed that wisdom to know that his food, his fuel, his pen, his paper is passed through that unconstituted parliamentary.
So who should he have consulted?
He needed to consult the Parliament executive and have a sitting before penning down.
An independent arm of government should have consulted.
It is nothing like independent.
Under the law,
and that's what I'm saying.
Under the Constitution,
I cannot allow Kamau, even if you are talking from Wajiko perspective, please understand the law clearly. You see, even if
under the Constitution,
just a minute. Even if you are talking about Wajiko, sometimes give us the benefit of understanding the law so that we educate you, so that you don't make a statement here that might misguides the Wajiko.
Okay.
Because
under the Constitution, he cannot consult the others. He is the law, meaning he's the court, and the court is all the way. They interpret the Constitution. You cannot interpret the Constitution with the Speaker of National Assembly.
And this is the process.
I'm just saying what I know. So now he cannot bring the Speaker and the others to sit down so that they pen. That would be wrong. Let me. I think I'm supporting you. And
basically, what my friend is here is telling you, in simple terms, Parliament makes the law, right?
Yes.
Judiciary interprets, executive enforce.
Enforce.
Period.
So he's interpreted the
Constitution
law.
101.
Okay, he's taking it to the
101.
president. What is presidency?
Okay.
Presidency is judiciary. Presidency is executive, but presidency is not judiciary.
Yes. So as the
Yes,
executive,
and that's
Maina
why.
Kamunya, you give me the benefit of the
Let me
doubt.
finish here.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when it
Eric.
comes to judiciary,
Eric.
the president
Eric.
doesn't have power over judiciary
Eric.
Exactly.
at all.
Eric, let
and
me
that's
tell
why,
you.
and that's why he must. The law is made
Allow
in parliament.
kindly
The law
allow
has
Wanjiku
just a minute. The
to
law-
refer from the constitution.
just a minute. The law is made by parliament. It is interpreted by the judiciary through the chief justice. Then the executive, read by the president, must enforce.
Come on.
And that is
This
why,
is
that is why it says the CJ shall write to the executive.
advice.
Indeed.
Can I finish?
Exactly.
Wanjiko is talking. The CJ who sits in the ivory towers shall write to the executive, who is the president, who represents Wanjiko.
Yes.
And then it will be enacted as per how the executives and the judiciaries want. But the process where it started is in the parliament, where they didn't enact the law that was passed through the 2010 constitution, and there were petitioners. Should we consider these petitioners or the representatives of the majority of Kenyans? That's a big question.
And by the way, the president is not the only representative of Wanjiku.
Yes.
He's just one among
he's the only one voted in majority.
Yes. So he is the
In
only.
regard-
What I'm saying is he's not the only representative.
But
of
he's the
Wanjiku.
majority voted by
What
the
is- you
Wanjiku
may
of
say
Kenya,
he's
who includes
number one
me.
among the chain or in
Yes,
the chain.
yes.
But he's
of
the
those
one who is
representatives.
making decisions
Because even
and he has
Maraga
the seat of
himself,
power.
even Maraga is a representative of Wanjiku.
No, he's not elected by Wanjiku.
No.
What do you mean?
Read no, guiding by the constitution number 1, sovereignty of the people. We delegated our rights to the courts to defend our.
How come we don't elect a CJ Maraga?
And that's
No, no,
why,
no, no, no,
and that's why the
Let's-
CJ alikataa uchaguzi.
That is it.
Because he has powers.
We have delegated
Gentlemen,
our rights.
He's a watchman
to him.
Gentlemen.
of the law.
That's why we
Gentlemen.
gave him the power
Gentlemen.
to
He's the
watch for us.
Gentlemen.
He's the watchman of
Gentlemen,
the law.
come out.
Yes, JJ.
Talk to Baida Kamunya. You need perhaps 1 year at the School of Law.
You need to pay
Just 1
me.
year.
You need to pay.
Just 1 year.
You need to
Anyway,
pay.
I also been asking what happens if this parliament is dissolved and whether the other one that comes will still meet the threshold. The answers provided in Article 261, subsection 8, which says if parliament has been dissolved under clause 7, the new parliament shall enact the required legislation within the period specified in the 5th schedule, beginning with the date of commencement of the new term. So I think
Another
even
5
if
years.
the other one is, we have a new parliament, they have another 5 years.
Yes.
To think about the 2/3 gender rule. Thank you very much, Kamau.
Thank you,
Thank you
JJ.
very much, Maina Kamunya. And thank you very much, Eric Rogala.
We finished.
Yes, we're done.
All right.
Have
It
yourself
was
a
too
fantastic
short.
evening.
was
God
too
bless
short.
you. My name is John Jacob Kiori. Thank you for watching Taifa Dialogues. We'll be back here on Friday at around the same time. God bless you. And thanks to the technical team and by Mwagi Boga. Have yourself a good evening.